Hey YouTube, I am standing in front of this weedy mess and I'm going to start weeding, and I thought I would show you sometimes your weedy mess is actually possibly an accidental apothecary garden. I counted, and I'll have to double check, I believe there are about 7 medicinal herbs growing wild in this bed behind me that just needs to be weeded out and barked. I'm going to leave a couple of things, but I thought I would show you before you dive into your weedy mess. Take a look, get a book if you need to, find out what's growing wild in your area. You may have medicinal herbs growing right on your property. Let's check it out. So this mess, I've already started pulling some things. This has been let go for several years. It hasn't been barked in forever. And we have a really big rose bush growing here. We've got a lilac growing here. That's all I planted, except this year I transplanted a peony from our front yard back to here. The rest of this, I dove into it as like, we need to clean this up. This is so bad. But let's talk about what's growing out here before I start pulling it out. And I'm not going to go into all of the uses of all these plants if they're medicinal, because I'm not a doctor or even an herbalist. So you'll have to do some research and find out what they're used for, but I will show you what I have out here. So this giant thing is burdock, which is edible root and also medicinal plant. But you'll notice that it has these burrs. As these develop, these become those terrible burrs that your pets will get in their fur, and it is what the original inventor of Velcro modeled the product on, because these get so sticky and they have little hook and eye things that become burrs that get in the fur. What else do we have out here? We've got mullein growing back under here, which is also a multi-purpose medicinal herb with these yellow flowers. That is St. John's wort, which you've probably heard of if you know about any kind of herbal treatments. This right here is one of the 2 varieties of wild lettuce that grow in this area. There's a whole bunch of it growing in here. So this wild lettuce, and the medicinal part of that is that sap. And again, look it up, growing intermingled with some St. John's wort. Then right here, this rather sticky, it's totally sticky plant, it sticks to you. It's called cleavers, some people call it goosegrass. Cleavers is another highly medicinal herb that grows wild. This right here, which I hate, and this will get so big, this is mugwort. And I pull this anytime I see it, because these will get probably 7 feet tall from that. They get enormous. They look like a giant delphinium that's wild, sort of, but they're very stemmy and woody, and they're very hard to pull, and they're very aggressive spreaders. This pretty plant right here that appears to be just popping up from under this, it's under the lilac, and I believe it's just because we have lots of birds that come in here. This is an elderberry. It's a baby, so I'm going to leave this because you can never have too much elderberry. We have one in the front yard, but this is a new volunteer. So I'm going to leave that. If you come over here by this rock, you will see this right here. This is yarrow coming up. And yarrow is also highly medicinal and useful, but also a super aggressive spreader, and I will pull it out anywhere I see it. I have it all over our lawn. If you ever get it in your grass, you'll never get rid of it. But it is incredibly useful as a medicinal herb. This right here, this little tiny, petite, easy to pull herb, this is chickweed, which is another really medicinal, nice plant to have to use to make salves and different things. That's a nice herb that you can find wild. This one's not wild because it's from the garden and it escaped. But right over here, I've got lemon balm that got out and is now growing wild outside the boundaries of the garden, so we need to pull that. And last but not least, we have this right here, which is also aggressive, hard to get rid of, very exuberant spreader, but this is plantain. It looks like this. There's 2 varieties of this here. There's a wide leaf and a narrow leaf. This is the wide leaf. Rabbits love it. It's very medicinal. But these seeds, if you see, this will become a giant patch, and these are very hard to get. They're hard to dig even with like a trowel. They're really tough. And they have a very tough, leathery leaf with, you can see those little kind of, it's sort of stringy when you break the leaves up. But this is another very medicinal plant. So I don't know what the count is. I'll put the count on the screen of what we have growing here. But you can see this just looks like a weedy mess, and it is. And I'll be cleaning all of it out. But it's also got a lot of very useful plants growing in it. So if you wanted to keep some useful plants, you could right here. I could have this just be a wild herb garden. I have lots of land here, so I won't be keeping any of them. This is actually a rhubarb that volunteered over here, and I'm going to let it stay, and it can just be a kind of a specimen plant once we clean out the rest of this bed and just bark it. So once this bed is done, it will just be what here's what I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave the burdock. I'm going to leave the elderberry, because that'll get huge and it'll fill in this space and shade the area where the peas are growing. I'm leaving the peony, which we planted, and I'm going to leave the rhubarb, and then the rest of this will just get bark. So there you have it. If you happen to live in a rural setting, take a look before you start weeding your random weedy patches and see what's growing. You may have medicinal herbs growing right on your property, and the chances are very good that you probably do. So before you pull everything, grab a good herb reference. I'm not going to go into all the details of all of this. That is up to you to do your own homework on what's medicinal and what is not and how to use it. But there are tons of things that grow wild that are so good for you. So make sure you check before you rip them all out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.